Hello, this is Andrew with WMH Racing, and today I have another request to go over how to use the Load Master, but this time it's with a bit of a twist. Today we're going to use the R1 ESC instead of an analyzer, and then after I use the R1, I am actually going to do a demo with my telemetry module, and I will talk more about that when I get to that demo. Alright, so first I do want to say one of the issues you may run into when using an ESC is that the voltage is not regulated. So I have here, I'm going to run the ESC off a server power supply that I modded to output variable voltage from 12 volts down to about 7 volts. So I've got it set at 8.4 volts right here. And if we go ahead and take a measurement, you can see my multimeter up there, 8.4007. So we're pretty dead on at 8.4 volts. All right, now let's go ahead and see what we are working with. Okay, so I'm trying to get stuff in view. This is the R1 live telemetry. So you have to use the R1 ESC. You have to have the Wi-Fi module hooked up to the ESC. You need a receiver, and then you need your motor, and then you go, you get on the app, you go to live, I click over to try to get to these readings. Let's see, if we pull the throttle, we see this stuff does kind of go up and move around. All right. I do want to talk about this for a second. I am using the motor. I'm actually soldering the wires on and not using the tabs on the motor. It's really not necessary for the R1 if you stick to the lower resistors. And if you use the 1 ohm resistor, you're going to be fine. However, if you are going to try to put crazy load, because the R1 can handle a bit more load than the analyzer, if you're going to do crazy load, you can't use the tabs. They're not made for the current. They're, especially on like the R1 motor, with the tabs being lower, it doesn't have as good a contact, and the motor can twist a little bit in here. You can see that. And what'll happen, the ESCs don't have over voltage protection in them, right? So what'll happen is it's twist, it'll short out 2 of the phases, and you'll smoke a motor. And you don't want to do that. Actually, you probably don't want to do this regardless, because, well, it's messing with electricity and stuff. All right, so I'm not going to push this one to the extreme. I'm just going to run this with a 21.5 slave, and just show you that the R1 ESC, you can use that instead of an analyzer. Now, I will say that the R1 ESC does measure about 1 to 2 amps lower than what I've seen the analyzers measure. You can say which one's which. I know that my telemetry module measures a little bit higher than the R1 as well. I know with their firmware, they've released different versions of the firmware, and depending on the firmware, the RPM range can be off, the current could be off. So I have no idea if they've perfected the firmware yet or not. It's been a while since I've updated this. All right, so just to show you the basic principle, R1 V21S motor hooked up to a slot machine 21.5, and the R1 is also 21.5, slot machine 21.5 slave, using the R1 Digital 3 stock spec ESC. And there we go. And we got up to, it says 8.8 amps was our high. So, and that was at 40 degrees timing. Like I said, it reads a couple amps lower than an analyzer or my telemetry module. All right, now I get to unplug this and move all this to the side, because now we get to have some fun and not so fun. I don't know. You call it what you will. We're not going to try to blow something up, but we're definitely going to put more of a load in something. And if I knew how to edit a video, I really would just take this part out, but I don't know how to edit videos. I spend all my time researching product designs and stuff like that, so no time to edit videos. And I'll just move this over here. All right. This is a Load Master with the integrated telemetry unit. I actually made these when I first made the Load Master, and this was for people who did not have an analyzer, that they could hook a Load Master up to a telemetry unit and see the current and the RPMs and the kV and the voltage. You need an ESC. You need a receiver. And it does use the tabs. But the motor I have in here is the Surpass 13.5. And this motor is not going to turn, and it is a very, very snug fit, because this is the original design. You see, there's no vents even. So this is the original design, and this is before I raised the tabs to accommodate for the SP5, and so this motor fits in there really tight, and I'm not too worried about it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go down through some motors, and this will probably be a video, would probably be on the longer side. But we're going to go down through some motors and show you what happens when we use different motors as a load, and what happens when we use the different resistor banks as a load. And I got to remember which way this plugs into this ESC. I know the port. I'm just trying to figure out the way it actually plugs in there. All right, so again, I'm going to hook this up to my modded power supply. All right, that's on. All right. Oh, we can get rid of this. Don't need this anymore. Get rid of that. All right, let's see. Let's see if we can get this on there pretty good. There we go. All right, so we're measuring 8.39 volts on my telemetry unit. And if we just get up to 5.5 amps, 39 kV, 32,000 or 32,800 RPM. All right, so this is, like I said, Surpass V5 or 13.5, Surpass V6, Rocket V6. Okay, I'm gonna start out with a 17.5 motor. I got all these slot machine motors that I can't use. So they make great slave motors until next year when I get to trade them in for, I think it's the slot machine 2 or whatever they're going to call it. But for now, they'll make great slave motors. Alright, so this is a little bit. There we go. A little bit hard to do this while trying to reach around a camera, make sure I'm not bumping over the camera. And all right, we're gonna do this 17.5 with a 1 ohm resistor bank. All right, ready, folks? There we go. 11.7 amps, 30,000 RPM, 3,600 kV. So 1 ohm resistor bank, 17.5 motor, 11.7 amps. Now if we go to a 21.5 for the slave motor, what do you think will happen? I think we'll draw more amps. That's what I think. And I've been doing this for a little while, so I'm probably right. Why do we draw more amps? Because a 21.5 has higher inductance than a 17.5. But beyond that, what really happens is the 21.5 is going to produce more voltage on the tabs because its kV is lower, and so when it's spun at the higher RPMs, it produces more voltage because the kV is the RPMs per volt. So if the 21.5 has a kV of, I don't know, 2200 kV or something like that, and you're spinning it at 30,000 RPMs, it's producing, okay, it can't be, I don't know what but the point is it's going to produce like 9.5 volts instead of 7 volts, which 21.5 would do, right? So it's going to produce like 9.5 volts, and then 9.5 volts has to be dropped down to 0 volts through the resistor bank. So it produces more of a load because it's having to drop the voltage drop across the resistor bank. All right, so 18.4 amps. All right, that was fun. That's 21.5. What's going to happen with the 25.5? The question is, how many amps can we hit? Now, this is really not something I recommend people just do, but I honestly think that when it comes down to it, using the analyzers and getting the reading around 10 amps is completely fine. I don't think you need to go crazy. But there are people out there who want to do it. There was a request for it. I honestly say that when you're doing this, proceed at your own risk. This is completely on you. All right, so 25.5 motor. that's with a 1 ohm resistor bank. Now, let's go to a 1/2 ohm resistor bank. 1/2 ohm resistor bank. That means it produces more load when the voltage gets dropped to 0. All right, 1/2 ohm resistor bank, 33 amps. And we're down to 23,000 RPM. So there's a big RPM drop there, because I think we started at like 32,000. All right, and this is, I'm just going to do this really fast. All right, this is a 0.1 ohm resistor bank. This is insane. Now, these are only 50 watt resistors that I found for this. To find 0.1 ohm resistor banks, 100 watt resistors will probably cost a little bit more. And even in a 200 watt resistor, which you probably should use if you're going to do this, you should also make sure that your wiring is pretty good. Definitely don't use the tabs. Definitely hard, soldered straight to the actual motor, and make sure plenty of venting. I mean, the motor's already getting a little warm. All right, this is crazy. There we go, 54 amps. That's right. And we have a voltage drop. We get down there into the 7s. 7.7. 16,500 RPMs. Huge drop. All right. I think that's enough fun. We got to 54 amps. The Juststock ESC is rated for 60 amps. Yeah. I didn't burn anything up, so that's kind of cool. Warm in there. All right. Anyway, I am going to revisit this. This telemetry module, I am going to revisit this. There are some programming changes I would like to make to it. One, I would like to make your numbers, your data display for a bit longer. Add in a button to actually shift over to your max data. So what it'll be is like your live data will just look like it is right now, but after you run, you'll be able to hit a button, and the button will then display what your max values were from that data, as long as you hold the button. And then another button will reset the data so you can move on to your next timing interval. I also need to redesign the case. This case was designed on my old printer, and I have lost I lost my Fusion 360 file, so I need to completely redesign the case. I mean, it needs a redesign anyway because it doesn't have the vent holes. This actual telemetry module is the reason why I made the vent holes to begin with, because I was like, oh, if I'm going to do this, the motor needs to be able to cool off somehow. But yeah, so that is all I got for today. Thank you for watching. Bye.